Hi there, Elise Dewsberry here from New Musicals Inc. with another one of my monthly video blogs on how to get no feedback from Elise, and part of a series where I'm revisiting topics that I've looked at in the past, but coming at them from a slightly different angle or with a bit of new information. So this month I'm going to be talking about song spotting. So I have in the past talked about the kind of song spotting worksheet that we recommend that people at least give a try to determine the purpose of the song that you're using, what dialogue it's replacing, what event it's trying to cover. Is this a realization? Is it a convincing moment? Is it is it discovery? What is it that is going to happen during the song that will make things different at the end of the song than they were at the beginning? All of those important things. And we often, in our song spotting worksheet, we ask you to work through the actual, sort of a prose version of your approach to the structure of the song. So let's say you're going to write a standard A-A-B-A song. And so you can write down in the first A, I'm going to accomplish this, and in the second A, this, and then in the B section, I'm going to go off in this direction, and then in the third A, I'm going to accomplish this. What I've been finding recently with some lyricists, in particular, I guess I have to say lyricists who aren't necessarily also either composers or musicians, there's a tendency to forget that if you choose a structure for your song like AABA or ABAB or whatever structure you're going to use, you have to remember that structure that implies both a lyrical structure and a musical structure that must match each other. And I'm talking about, capital A, B, in terms of structure, rhyme scheme, which is done with, small a, B, C, also impacts on the music. I can talk about that in a moment too. But it's really important. I'm a big fan of progressions. So I'm always interested in saying, why don't you plan your structure as a progression? Like it's going to be a time progression. And the first A is going to be the past. The second A is going to be the present. The B section is going to be wishing that the world could be different, going off on a different tangent altogether. And the third A section is going to be about a potential future. That might be a way to track a time progression for your song. But you need to bear in mind when you're doing that kind of prose tracking of your plan for the song, that I've had people turn in things where they say, okay, in the A, they're going to talk about this, and the B, they're going to talk about this. And then there's going to be a C where they talk about this, and then a D where they talk about this. And then they're going to go back to the A and talk about that. And then they're going to do a C again and talk about this. And I think sometimes that there's a lack of understanding that those A, B, C, those sections that we're talking about not only imply something in terms of the progression of the lyric, but they also are there to talk about the way the music is set up. So in an AABA song, the A's are all musically identical. That's the whole point. That's why we call it an A, because they're musically identical. And a B is going off in a different arena musically. So the idea is you want to take advantage of that lyrically and say, if these are all going to sound all melodically sound exactly the same, musically exactly the same, then I want my repeating hook to turn up in the same line in each one, and I want them to be not addressing the same thing, but sort of covering a similar kind of. They should be part of the same progression. That's why, for instance, in the one I just mentioned, AABA, I did past, present, and future as the A's, and then saved the B for I wish time didn't matter to me. Like you might go off in a whole different thing. Like I wish time wasn't something I had to pay any attention to, might be what your character goes off into in the B, which bears no resemblance to what they were talking about in the A's, which means that it can be supported by a musical B section, which is completely contrasting. So the A's all sound alike musically, but the B goes off into a completely different place. So you really want to be cognizant of that, both composers and lyricists, that those structures that we talk about, AABA, ABAB, ABACA, whatever the structure is, they imply not only something about how the lyric is going to be organized, but also about how the music is going to work. So they need to work together. Now, that's also true of, small letter A. When you're talking about rhyme scheme, you use the small letters to say, like a limerick is typically an AA. What does a limerick usually do? AABBA. There once was a man from Nantucket. who had a bucket. His daughter named Nan ran away with a man, and as for the bucket, Nantucket. Yeah, so they're a standard limerick is small letter AABBA. But that is also going to impact on if you were going to musicalize a limerick. Music also rhymes and has phrasing. So you also want those rhymes to land in the places where the music feels like it wants to rhyme. So you don't want to write, for instance, an A-B-A-B rhyme scheme for music that seems to be rhyming A-A-B-B or vice versa. So you really want to think about that. If you listen, music is da 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 dum da dee da 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 dum da dee da 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 dum da dee da 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 dum, and something like that lovely melody that I've just written might lend itself to an A B C B, where da 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 is one word that isn't going to rhyme with anything. Ya da 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 moon. Ya da 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 some other word altogether. C da 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 June, because the music wants to rhyme there. So structurally, capital A's and B's and rhyme scheme wise, small A's and B's have equally important impact both musically and lyrically. So whether you're designing the lyric or the music or working on them together, they have to meld. You have to be on the same page with all those things. So be thinking about that when you are planning and working on your songs for your musical. Thanks for your time. We'll see you next month, and toodaloo.